Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, y'all? Soul here, and welcome back to my story mode. So, for the last couple days to probably about a week now, I've been replaying the hell out of Breath of the Wild, right? And, I did so because, I just kind of wanted to get more in the Zelda mood again because, I remember somebody saying that after Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild kind of becomes unplayable. And I'm like, I don't know if I believe that, right? Because while I do think that Tears of the Kingdom is just a beautifully crafted game, pretty much building upon everything when it comes to the world of, Breath of the Wild, I do still think that Breath of the Wild was the first to do it, the one to set the precedent and stuff like that. And, we're a little dramatic when Tears of the Kingdom came out, right? I said it, millions of others said it. Tears of the Kingdom made Breath of the Wild feel like something of a tech demo. And I can absolutely get that sentiment. You know what I'm saying? Like again, like I said it too. I completely agree. It just has so many more mechanics to play with, so many different elements that have been improved and just expanded upon, so many different ideas that they've really just, put everything into. It's great, but, I guess that's neither here nor there. That's completely dependent on your personal opinion when it comes to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But, that's not really what we're here to talk about, right? Now, I've been thinking about this a lot, like ever since Breath of the Wild even, right? Because, at least with Tears of the Kingdom, we got a solid idea of what was gonna come next. A sequel to Breath of the Wild is in development. Oh, perfect. A direct sequel? Awesome. We're getting the Majora's Mask treatment. They're just going to improve on a lot of different aspects within the story, within the characters, stuff like that, yada, yada, yada. They're just going to build upon the world that they already built, as they absolutely should, right? But then, after Tears of the Kingdom released, they specifically said, no, we're not doing another game in this world. After Tears of the Kingdom, that is it for this rendition of Zelda, essentially, right? And that's strange to me. And I have to imagine this is how a lot of earlier Zelda fans felt too, right? Because I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm a late Zelda fan, right? I got into Zelda in 12 or 13 when they released Wind Waker HD on the Wii U. That's when I really got into Zelda. I got it, never played it for like a year or something like that, then really got into Wind Waker, and then really got into Zelda, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get the appeal. This is one of my favorites now. Easily. But, once we finally got Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, I'm like, yeah, this is my favorite rendition of this series by a long shot. A long shot, right? And so, ever since that happened, I've been thinking a lot to myself, how are they going to top this one? Because now they've essentially, this is something that Nintendo does often anyways, but I still think about it a lot because they've essentially now, with this in our minds, put themselves in competition with themselves. Does that kind of make sense? You know what I'm saying? Now, this is not me saying that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are perfect. By no means are those games just completely, absolutely flawless. They're mostly flawless in my book. But obviously they do still have some glaring issues that, people were able to look past because the positives outweigh the negatives by miles. But, there's still a lot of different issues that we'll talk about, more in depth on this channel going forward, of course. Like, Zelda or Link being super lonely, the scattered stories and stuff like that. That's, again, we'll talk more in depth about that stuff later. But for the most part, in a gameplay sense, it's just so great, man. And I feel like a lot of people can agree. I'm sure there's plenty of you that absolutely disagree with me, and that's totally fine, because I really do want to know how you think this next Zelda game would outdo Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be going through Tears of the Kingdom again as well, but, you know, playing through Breath of the Wild again, it's such a masterpiece. It really is a masterpiece of a game. Getting to know this world, it's so in-depth. All of these characters really do feel like they have their own lives going for them. They're all doing their own things. They have their own schedules. They have just so much on their minds and stuff like that. And, you know, I always think back to, you know, the promises that, Project Red made for Cyberpunk 2077, in which, you know, oh yeah, these characters have their own lives. Zelda did that in 2017, bruh. It's crazy how alive and amazing that world just feels to just exist in, to just be in that world is so mesmerizing. And it's just, it really is something, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, from a gameplay standpoint, it just feels so good to move around, to just be free, to be in this open world. You know what I'm saying? It was so good, in fact, that Breath of the Wild, as if we all remember, pretty much redefined the genre of open world. You can call me dramatic, you can call me wrong, that actually happened. No matter how much you want to fight that, we got so many different knockoffs and just, you know, kind of replicas and stuff like that of open world games that were clearly trying to reformulate what Breath of the Wild did back in the day. Say what you will, Genshin Impact ain't that far off, bro. You can fight me on that all you want, but it's way too close, man. It's way too close. I'm just saying. But regardless, what do you do to top your previous Zelda game, which was damn near just perfect in so many aspects? Again, not completely perfect, but damn near, for me at least, right? Gameplay elements were just so fluid and just so great. Combat was just so epic and fun and just grand, you know what I'm saying? The story was just to an epic proportion, you know, when it's, you know, when you actually get the story. I don't know why they do this. Again, separate video. But how do you surpass that, right? I can't imagine a situation in which we go back to a linear Zelda game. Can you imagine that? And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. Twilight Princess and stuff like that is still one of my favorite Zelda games. I'm not personally a huge fan of Skyward Sword, but I appreciate the ideas that it had and what it brought to the table, because it's definitely what set the tone and the general ideas out for Breath of the Wild. And so, you know, I appreciate it and all like that. But I've been watching a Let's Play recently of Skyward Sword, just, you know, looking back on it, because it's been a long time since I've played it, and I'm thinking, man, I can't imagine us going back to something like this, right? So there's no way in hell the next game isn't going to be open world, right? There's no way in hell they're not going to give us, you know, the absolute freedom and just power to choose our own path and, you know, approach things the way that we want to approach things, right? Because in actuality, the spirit of Zelda is strongest in Breath of the Wild and probably the first Zelda, because you got to remember, Miyamoto himself literally said, yeah, it's, you know, like I'm going back in time, you know, I'm playing as a kid, I'm playing in my backyard and I'm hunting for caves and stuff like that. And I just have this freedom to explore and adventure. And Era of the Wild captures that amazingly. Amazingly. What next, man? How do you do that again? I mean, granted, of course, I'm not trying to downplay any of the other Zelda games by any means, but I've just never felt a connection to a Zelda game like I have with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I loved Wind Waker, I loved Twilight Princess, Minish Cap was great, Ocarina of Time was absolutely incredible, Majora's Mask was beautiful in every sense of the word, but Era of the Wild was damn near perfect. And I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just putting my hopes up a little too high, maybe, you know? And that's more than fair if you guys feel the need to shoot me down a little bit, bring me back down to earth and be like, hey, you know, bring those expectations a little bit lower, because, you know, again, we never know what they've got coming to the table. And, you know, just because the next one may not be my favorite, just like Era of the Wild, it may be somebody else's favorite. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like Era of the Wild. There's plenty of people that don't like Era of the Wild. And so, you know, I just thought about that a lot. And I it's just so hard for me to imagine what's coming next for Zelda. But, you know, regardless of what's coming next for Zelda, I do have lots of hopes and wishes and a couple of ideas that I'd like to run by y'all to see what you guys think about a couple of different concepts and mechanics that we'd like to see for upcoming Zelda games and stuff like that. So I'll definitely send that your guys' way eventually. So yeah, but I think that just about locks it down for this one here. So I guess that'll do it for me. It does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, but before I go, yeah, you go ahead and tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below. Do you guys think that they're going to be able to top Era of the Wild? Do you think that they're going to do much bigger and better with the next set of games, whatever they happen to do? Or do you think it's going to be impossible and you think that there's just no way they could do better than what they did with Era of the Wild? And maybe, like me, you're a little delusional on that. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I'm always going to be down there with you guys. But with that, yeah, it's time for me to get on. So I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the good favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, gone. So thanks again. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor, taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time.